So I'd like to start out with what made you go with Kelly as your director? She is quite a fun lady and has done a lot of work. What attracted you to that crazy Aussie?
We're obsessed with her, and it's great to know that you know her work as well. So I got an audition. I'm primarily an actor. I got an audition for her first feature, which is titled My Fiona, and I fell so deeply in love with that script that I hounded her to be the director for this project. It was very happenstance. She was shooting her film down the street from where I was shooting a film, and our friend Blair happened to be at our film that day, let me know she was going over to Kelly's, and then I was like, give me her contact information because I need her to direct our short. Yeah, so it worked out like that.
Really serendipitous. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, as far as giving her the script, giving her the idea, what made y'all click and decide we can do this? And then what was the next step that made it possible?
Yeah, I mean, she comes so prepared. She does something called Barbie boards, where she does all of her storyboards with Barbies, and so she came and she had Barbie boards for us, and she had a visual palette for us, and she had clearly thought so in depth about this story, and she was so passionate about Mariah's script as I was when I read it. And I think it was her preparedness, and also just her wanting to explore this topic and being so passionate about it herself. We knew we wanted to have a woman director. Everyone on this film from start to finish is either a woman or non-binary. We made a point to make sure that everyone was, intersectional, lots of representation, and that everyone was paid as well.
Where'd this story come from? Is it based on a real life doula or someone in that field? I mean, where did this come from?
Yeah, great question. The story was born one day in Los Angeles as I was driving in my car listening to the radio, as I do. We spend a lot of time in our car in Los Angeles. And I heard this amazing story about how women were helping support other women through abortion outside of the medical system. And sometimes that was because of lack of access. And other times it was because women simply didn't like the treatment they'd received within the medical institution before, or wanted privacy or the comfort of their own home. Whatever the reason, I thought it was amazing that women were supporting each other in this way. And I also thought it was amazing because growing up, I've always considered myself someone who's felt fairly well versed in the world of issues affecting women or people with uteruses and abortion, and I thought I knew what I needed to know. But I didn't realize that, I had absorbed this rhetoric of any abortion outside of the medical system was incredibly dangerous. And the truth is, it isn't. It actually is something that can be safely managed independent of that. Now, of course, I would love it to be a situation where people could safely, accessibly choose abortion through the medical institution. But considering what's going on in our world, it's just so important to know that there's another way. So, in sum, radio story about doulas and women seeking abortions and managing them independently. And this strange light bulb moment washed over me, and I knew that I needed to write this. And it's actually the first thing I ever wrote, so that's not a familiar instinct to wash over me. So
let's talk about the timing of it. Yeah. Coming out right now. We come from Texas, so we're dealing with this issue, sadly, quite a bit. And education is one thing, but like you said, the opportunities, the knowledge is just not out there for people. How important is it to make a movie like this? Did y'all have that weight while doing it, knowing that it isn't just a really intimate, important film, but it's educational to a lot of people, sadly, but true.
Totally. Yeah.
I'll start, and then I'm sure you have stuff to say too. I don't know that we felt the weight in the way that we do now. We have this running not funny joke between us that unfortunately our film becomes more and more relevant almost with each passing day. Yeah. I originally started conceptualizing this God, years ago. I don't even know when, but like a handful of years ago. And we actually filmed right before the pandemic, and our post process was pretty slow because of that. And somehow it all kind of lined up that now we're really talking about it when it's like, okay, this needs to be in people's hands now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're waiting on the SCOTUS decision to come down any day. There was an assumption it was going to come down this past Tuesday. So like we said, it's becoming more and more relevant every day. For me, something that was really exciting was the literacy that we could create around at-home and medical abortion. So for me, that's like a huge driving factor, and I know it is for you too, in getting this film out there so that people can see that it is very safe. So misoprostol and mifepristone, the two drugs that are used in Mifeprex, which is the abortion drug, or the two abortion drugs, they are so safe that there's only a 0.4% complication rate, which is equal to that of Tylenol. It's as safe as a miscarriage. It's not detectable in your system. So if you take these drugs and for whatever reason need to go to the hospital and you're in a state that is not friendly to people who are pro-choice or getting an abortion, you do not have to relay that information to the doctor. It's completely undetectable.
And you could just say you're having a miscarriage.
Exactly. You can just say you're having a miscarriage. And also, it's a lot safer than being pregnant, especially in this country that doesn't value maternal health. And you know, I have a lot to say about that. I'm trained as a birth doula as well, so yeah.
Well, it's sad because it is becoming such a focused thing, especially, I mean, Texas, the rhetoric, the verbiage that's being used, I mean, putting people away in jail, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
I would love to talk about the title and connecting it to the drugs, but also making it seem not like what it is. I mean, I found myself afterwards searching out, Googling, trying to figure out all that you put in the film, because I was like, I didn't know all this. And that's so enlightening, but also making it a title that isn't what you think it is until you get into it and you realize, whoa. So who came up with the title choice, and was that always the title?
We had a little process of trying to figure out what the title was going to be, and we landed on it because it hits on two themes that we wanted to drive home. One of them being misoprostol, so miso coming from misoprostol is the drug itself, or one of the two drugs that gets used in medical abortion. But the other one is the image that miso conjures: soup, right? Warmth, a meal shared, and the other theme that we have riding through our film is the importance of women and people with uteruses coming together to share an embodied experience. Mariah brings us home all the time about
Nailed it.
Good job, thank you. Just about the importance of like women and people with uteruses supporting each other, especially in these vulnerable spaces. And we wanted to like have some of that feeling in our title as well.
Couldn't have said it better myself, so I'm not going to try. But one thing I will add is they do, in the abortion space, misoprostol is referred to as miso. We didn't like give it a cute little nickname or abbreviation. It is the thing.
Where did you guys film that home? Was that all in, like the bathroom, was that all in that same place?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we filmed. Coming up with the location was an interesting little dance too, but we filmed with our third co-producer, as opposed to producer, which we currently don't have, Camille Bernier Green. She is amazing and wonderful and wishes she could be here with us today. Yeah. We filmed in her loft space in around Marina Del Rey, California. And very excitingly, when we screened this film first, somebody from Atlanta asked us like, "Oh, did you film in Atlanta?" And I was like, "Oh, thank God." Yeah. We like blurred palm trees out in the background. So there's a window scene where that occurred. So it was quite a relief. But yes, it was all one space.
So cool. Yeah. What did it mean to get accepted into this festival in particular, knowing Gina, Wendy, the foundation, what they've been doing for not just women filmmakers, but diversity as a whole, representation? Yeah. What does that mean? And knowing that y'all set out to make a film that very much is diverse for a reason and a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll take this one.
Do it.
We were so genuinely excited to be accepted into this festival, specifically because of the points that you're mentioning, because it's about inclusion, because it's about diversity. Again, our entire cast, crew, creative team is an intersectional group of women and non-binary people. That's like what we really care about. And Kelly had such a wonderful time when she was here with the Brown List a number of years ago and had such great things to say. So we knew that we wanted to be involved. And then also as filmmakers, I feel like so much of the fun of a festival is when you can come and connect with other filmmakers and learn from them. And I feel like because this is not as much of a white male space as many of the other festivals, I'm getting to learn from so many voices that I might not have had the opportunity to do so at other festivals that don't champion diversity in the way that Bentonville does. So I just think they're doing a great job. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, thrilled. I mean, this was one of our top choices and like the dream. So being accepted was massive. We're so thrilled to be here.
Yeah.
And I agree with everything you said, which is shocking.
With your experience in the profession that you came across on the radio, I'm curious, research-wise, making sure everything that happened in the film is real. I loved how authentic and real and honest it was. It went through all the different phases. I love, it's 9 minutes, but it feels like a lifetime of knowledge. How important was it to keep that truth in the film and not glam it up or do something different?
Totally.
Deeply important. It was huge to us, first of all, because we felt a responsibility to these characters and to the women who are going through this, and to, anybody who wants more education around this topic. We felt that what we needed to share needed to be right. So in this process, we did a lot of research. We did reading about, the Janes. We spoke to full spectrum doulas, who are doulas that not only provide birth support, but also either like abortion support or support moving through death or any experience with those transitions. We spoke to people who worked with Planned Parenthood. We talked to people who worked with the organization Plan C. And our real goal in representing the abortion itself was not to shy away from the fact that sometimes that process, even with a medication self-managed abortion, can be very painful. It isn't always, and we wanted it to be honest without it being gratuitous. And I think we did a good job striking that balance, but that was one of our main priorities, was to be very, very true. Yeah.
A lot of the research that we did, in addition to all of these interviews that Mariah is referencing, was that we watched any kind of narrative portrayal of abortion that we could find. And I think that there's not enough of that, first of all. But what we did find was so great, but it often is the decision or everything leading up to the abortion, or like the romantic comedy with a partner or something like that, or the aftermath of making the decision. And we really wanted to zero in on the process itself and honor it by being as honest as possible. If you see the film, you'll see that there's, we were very intentional about having a bloody pad in there for like a second, because we think that these are things that oftentimes get kind of, skirted over. And that shame and the fact that things are not talked about, we just wanted to open those conversations up and show things that you wouldn't normally see and have the discussion in as raw a way as we could.
Having the discussion, I'd love to ask some of the responses for people who've seen it, not just in festivals, but anyone you've been able to showcase it, the conversations that happen after that. Can you share with us what those experiences have been like?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Sharing it with people has been the best part, because when you're in it, you come up with this idea and you're like, this is great, this is awesome, I'm creating something brilliant, and then you're down and dirty with it and you're like, oh my God, am I doing it any justice? Like, what is it like? And it becomes this insane, egoic, emotional experience, even when you have the best intentions. But then in sharing it with people, you get a chance to kind of just breathe and see how your work is received. And our reception has been so powerful. It's been my favorite part. I've had women come up to me in the bathroom in tears and want to hug me and say, like, that was me, that was my story, you got it. I've had people comment on the tenderness of the relationship that I wrote and we cultivated between Kat and Sophie, which was so deeply important because everything I do in my life is really focused on relationship. I'm particularly drawn to female relationship, and I wanted to really champion that. So yeah, just hearing the fact that people saw themselves and their story represented and felt the tenderness between the characters and having their comments echo our intentions has been so affirming and so powerful and such a reminder of why we do this. So
yeah,
that's my thought.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Great.
Can I ask a little bit more about this friendship then? How much did you grow from making this film together?
Oh my gosh. So it's...
do it.
It's so funny because Mariah and I always say that you're one of my best teachers. It's
so nice.
It's so true. We are very, very similar in some ways and very, very different in other ways. And it would manifest in the strangest of ways, in the sense that, like, we'd show up to rehearsal and I'd be wearing burgundy pants and a black shirt and she'd be wearing burgundy shirt and black pants. It was like the universe trying to tell us that, like, we needed to meet each other and, like, learn from each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that I've learned and grown so much by working with you. You know, we were just having a conversation in the elevator on the way up here, and Mariah was like, I don't use the word should, and I was like, I need to adapt that. That's very good. So I'm learning from her all the time.
Oh my gosh, Al, that's so sweet. Yeah, Al is the best. She's profoundly talented. She is a go-getter in this way that I aspire to be, but sometimes can be a little bit anxious and laxed about being. It's just been such a gift, and we actually became friends and collaborators through this project. And not only that, but our third, again, who isn't here, Camille, she's kind of like, if we're the bread of the sandwich, she's the peanut butter that held us together, in that she lived with Alex in New York, and she went to Barnard with me, and she kind of united us, and from that, this really powerful bond and working relationship was born.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool because, you know, as Kat and Sophie, we're kind of forging this relationship. So too are we.
Yeah.
You know, so
True.
I think that probably comes through.
Yeah. And also just, again, to shout out our third partner, because we really, it's like you have 2/3 of the puzzle right here.
Yeah.
But Camille is our other work wife, and we love her very much and wish that she could be here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Kelly, for that matter, too. Yeah.
And Kelly and our DP Madi, and God, just such a great team.
Yeah.
Can y'all touch upon deciding to make a movie, as you said, all women, all non-binary, and how that, I think that gives it a different life, gives it a different story. That choice, how important is that to what we have received as the film?
Yeah, great question. I think for me as an actor, it allowed me to be really vulnerable and not self-conscious in that moment. I didn't feel like I had to defend my experience in any way. And I'm not saying that, like, a man on set would do that, but it was just such a vulnerable, open space. And I know that so many of the people in our crew could at least sympathize, right? Because being as many of them were women or non-binary, like, everybody could imagine themselves in this position. And I think that there was a reverence for that, which allowed for a lot of vulnerability, which was really important. And then on the producer side of things, I just believe so passionately that we need to have more women in film, especially in above the line positions, especially women of color. So I just think that it made me all the more excited to go to work. I work primarily as an actor, and it's never happened where I've shown up to set and it's been all women, and rarely happens where the director, and even rarer when the DP is a woman. So it was just really cool in our tiny sphere of influence to be able to have that experience.
Yeah, I completely agree. Camille and I have both been in educational. I love how I keep referring as
like
if
right there.
like she's like Elijah or something like that. But you know,
She's Elijah.
We kept
Cam,
the door
we love you
open
so
and
much,
everything.
girl. But we both were. I'm still doing it. We both were educated in single-sex environments, starting when we were 11 years old. So I'll just speak to me because while Camille is here, she's not here and can't really speak. That has been such a major inspiration to just how I live and exist and function in this world. And it was so empowering and important to, I guess, my formation as a person. And I don't know, it's just there was never a question or a moment where this film wasn't going to be that. And not only that, behind the scenes, it also in front of the camera, I guess, was always going to be about these two characters. It wasn't going to be about, well, who got Sophie pregnant, or like, how do you feel about that? Like, that was so unnecessary and irrelevant, and it was just this world created between these people. So that definitely was a big part of that.
Yeah, her choice is valid. You know, no matter how she came to needing the abortion, the choice to have one was a valid one. Yeah, and that was part of what we wanted to say.
Yeah, I commend you on not giving us that information at all. I didn't even think about it because I was wrapped up in the connection that was happening.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're on the festival circuit with this, and short films have a different life than regular films as far as what they can do after. But what are the hopes and goals for this film? To somehow possibly, I mean, public broadcasting is one way, but education levels would be 10 minutes of this in a class can change lives. So how important is this to taking this to another place, another level?
Yeah, that's so important to us, and it's something that we've started talking about. We've only just begun our festival circuit, so we want to, let that have its full life. But we've talked about maybe bringing it on a tour of university campuses or bringing it to medical institutions. The possibility of distribution would be wonderful so that we can let the public at large know more about self-managed abortion. Mariah touched on the fact earlier that we live in LA and had lived in New York and both consider ourselves literate feminists and didn't know that this medication was, accessible.
I don't think I even knew it was a thing.
Didn't know it was
Like,
a
I
thing.
really only thought there were surgical abortions.
Same, 100%.
Yeah.
And the fact that if we don't know, with all the access to information and privilege that we have, like, who the heck knows? So we just want to, spread this information as much as we can.
Yeah.
May I ask then, this might be thinking too broad out there, but what's next for you guys personally? Are you writing something new, acting-wise? What's down the horizon? But also, has this project made you look at what you want to do differently in any way?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, it's definitely, especially being at festivals, this has affirmed the fact that I want to do this. Like, like I said earlier, making films can be really hard and really scary and vulnerable and expensive. Even when they're like low budget, they're expensive. But it's been really affirming that this is such a part of who I am and what I want. As far as other projects outside of this, and I'm sure to anyone who's seen the film or will see the film, this makes sense. I'm also a life coach. So again, like I said, everything I do is really about relationship. So those are my big things going on. I have another short that I'm writing and distancing myself and writing and distancing myself from. So maybe that, we'll see. Yeah.
So I have a couple of features that are in post-production right now. One's called The Immaculate Room. We had our premiere at Mammoth, and I believe it's just gotten distribution. Not entirely sure. We shall see. Stay tuned. But I loved that script. And then there's a film that I shot in the pandemic called Some Things More Than One Thing that was executive produced by the Russo brothers. That's in post-production as well. A little TV action.
Just the Russo brothers.
Just, no big deal. That was such an annoying name drop, but yeah, they did it. Sorry about that.
The question was for.
Anyway.
Never heard of those guys. No.
Who are those guys? And yeah, some TV stuff, but I feel like this has really lit the fire for me for producing as well. Just being able to have some creative control as an actor, we never have any of that unless you've got like a really great director. You don't usually have a lot of creative control, just like a little bit. And I've really loved the process, and I love all the stress that comes along with it in like a really fun way.
Great, totally.
I've learned so much. So yeah, I'd love to do some more producing in the future. Just not sure what yet. Yeah.
Well, ladies, thank you for bringing the film. First of all, thank you for making it and making it the way you did. It could have been done so differently and not been a helpful film. It's the exact opposite. So thank you. And thank you for coming to Bentonville. I think Gina and the crew knew what this was and wanted to showcase it.
Thank you so much for having us. Again, we're so happy to be here, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, this was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time and this wonderful interview and this moment to like reflect and celebrate. It's been great.
Yeah, thank
Awesome.
you.